up and give me such a great welcome. Are you a fan of the
I'm
show?
David Richmond. We've talked on Facebook.
David, yes,
Sorry
from Washington. We've exchanged, and you were going to come to Chicago, right?
Yeah, and I
you were
hope
going to try to get you. You contacted me about public radio and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's good to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you.
It's really good to see you, and I'm really excited to be here. I'm so excited. You guys seem like you're so far away. Can you come closer, just for me? We got a great show for you today. Just a great show. Do you guys like musical improv?
Yes.
Yes. We have got Travis Charles Plager here. If you've seen iMusical, the improvised musical, you know he's the creator and the director. So we'll bring him out right now. Please help me welcome Travis. Before, because I'm going to do some musical improv, which scares the hell out of me. And I love your passion, your passion for musical and stuff like that. And you said like you started playing the piano when you were like 2 years old or something?
Yeah, before I could walk.
Is that true?
Yeah, it's true. Why would I lie?
I don't know.
What did that give us? Yeah, no, that was before I could walk. My parents had the foresight to buy one of those Schroeder pianos, Trader.
The little toy piano
yeah, the little
from
toy.
the Peanuts?
Yeah.
Schroeder,
Yeah, so it has like 6 keys, you know. And so before I could walk, I'm banging on this thing all the time. And my parents, they took a gamble, and by the time I got to kindergarten, they decided to buy the upright piano, the real deal. And I'm very glad they did.
Do you remember what was the first song that you learned?
Oh, it was probably one I made up. I'm good at it. Yeah, I made up a haunted house song.
I remember it all. How?
Oh God. I could fake it. I could improv. Right? I could fake it. Yeah. Yeah. Probably something like.
And how old were you? Would you say?
Oh, this is 5.
5 years old.
This is
It's
5.
your first
5,
song.
yeah.
It's the haunted house song.
Yeah, haunted house song. So it's probably something like. I probably did that over and over and over again until my parents were like, "That's great, that's great." that's probably how that.
And then, so you do that, and you're like one of these kids where you actually, you know, like a lot of people, like I got an instrument and you just blow it off. You like got an instrument and you just took to it, right?
Initially, yes.
Okay.
There was a period of from 5 through maybe I was 12 or 13, and then like many preteens, they start to rebel against anything your parents want.
Why did you rebel?
Because I'm a stupid young kid, and I was like, I don't want to play piano. I don't want to do lessons. I want to play bass guitar. So I then started playing bass guitar, and my parents were like, fine, all right, you want to do this. It was kind of neat that the moment I stopped taking lessons, and I was going to do bass guitar and be really cool, I then would play piano more, because now I didn't have this constraint of, you need to learn this practice thing this week for the teacher. You have to bike through the woods to get to the teacher's house to learn to play the thing that you just spent all week practicing. And once that was removed from the process, I then went to the piano because I wanted to go to the piano, and I started like really writing really well.
And then in your teens, you also developed this love for musical theater, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, even I was 9, 10. I wasn't thinking I was going to be primarily behind the piano. That was the fun musician thing to do. But I thought I was going to be singing and acting on Broadway. That was what I was going to do. So.
Do you remember the first musical you saw that like got you like, oh, I got to do this?
The soundtrack for the movie recording of Annie with Albert Finney as ball guy, Danny Warbuck. That I listened to that constantly.
What was your favorite? Like Tomorrow?
I loved Maybe. I loved Tomorrow. I loved Hard Knock Life. I mean, it was so cool to me that they didn't bother to have like a soundtrack of a musical that you couldn't see. That was amazing.
But like as a 12-year-old or a teenage kid in Minneapolis, a suburb of Minneapolis where you grew up, in St. Paul, that wasn't very cool, was it, to be into Annie?
Well, let me be clear, the Annie phase didn't last very long once I had 2 numbers on my age. That didn't go much beyond. But yeah, it wasn't the coolest thing in the world. I was your theater nerd.
Right, because there's such a stigma. Like, I wish I would have done more theater when I was in high school, but I was like, I don't want to be a theaterite. I don't want to be stigmatized as that theaterite. Did you have any of that when you were in high school?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there was our high school. You had cliques of you had like a theater clique. You had like a smart kids clique. You had a jock clique. You had a burnout clique. You had all the cliques like you would normally have, and I was definitely in that theater music clique.
And so then from there, you go to Hart School of Music.
Yeah.
And you get a scholarship, don't you?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to get one, yes.
Mm-hmm.
They paid for most of it.
Mm-hmm. And when you went there, you wanted to still be a Broadway actor, right?
That's correct, yeah. I was going to be in Rent or Les Mis. That's what I was going to do.
And so you go there, and what do you study when you go there?
It's a music theater. It's a Bachelor of Music degree that I have, but the emphasis is music theater. So not only do I have the singing and the acting.
Any dancing?
Oh yeah, it was 4 years of ballet, 4 years of jazz, 4 years of modern, lots of, which I completely have still. I wish I could share it with you.
A lot of people around here, they say, oh, he can move very well. Not only can he play, but he can move.
Oh yeah, I'm a big mover.
So you got that degree, and then you moved to New York City.
Yes.
And still you want to become, like you said, Les Mis or be in Rent. And what happens when you get there?
So I was one of the lucky guys out of college to have booked enough gigs that I didn't have to move to New York right away. So I graduated in like.
So when you say book enough gigs, what do you mean?
I mean that my senior year of college, I was going out on auditions already and landing work for contracts for when I graduated. So I managed to get a couple of children's theater tour contracts. I got a contract with the Great American Melodrama out in California for a full year. I didn't have to move to New York for almost 2 years after I graduated because I had managed to line up.
So you were a working
job.
actor
That's
for
correct.
2 years?
That's correct.
And then you did like chorus parts and
Yes,
stuff like that?
yes.
Okay. And so after the 2 years run out, now you want to go to New York.
And I figured this is easy, right? I booked these couple of,
Well, because you must have been like in a bubble, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely,
basically,
yeah.
You know, oh, I can make money in theater.
Bang!
Yeah. So you go to New York,
Yeah.
and then what happened?
And the bubble burst.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if anyone told you, there are lots of talented actors in New York City. A lot of them out there. A lot of them out there.
Next, you're going to tell me there are a lot of talented actors that want to go be on Broadway.
Yeah, absolutely, right? And it's not a limitless job.
Well,
apparently.
you know-
Apparently there only have X amount of jobs there.
Well, so how did you find that out? I mean, I kid, but was it?
It was, first you have to be a union actor to even audition for most of those things. So, and I wasn't a union actor yet. So I would either have to wait for the non-union, the
Non-equity.
non-equity versions of those auditions, which would be even 10 times the amount of people to get into half of the amount of
And
slots.
when you mean 10 times, when you show up to a non-equity audition,
Oh,
how many people?
It would be, you'd have 200 people in a line, snaking in the hallway, sitting around, waiting for their 16 bars, which is like, 45 seconds to sing.
What would be 16 bars? Can you just give me a sample?
Oh, she gets too hungry for dinner at 8, blah, 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 blah. She likes the theater, but doesn't come late, blah, 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 blah. She doesn't bother, blah, that she hates. That's why the lady's a tramp. Thanks, good night. That's it.
I mean, how long are you waiting these lines?
All day, you have to take a day off of work, so I would be temping, and then I would say I'm not temping this day because I'm going to be in this line at 9 a.m. and wait until,
And how many auditions did you do before you realized this isn't what you wanted to do?
Well, there wasn't a moment where I said, I'm not doing this anymore, let me do something else.
Okay.
It snuck up on me. I was in the middle of auditioning. That's the positive way to say it. You're auditioning. So I was in the middle of auditioning. And a friend of mine who knew that I played piano and wrote songs and did stuff for fun, she was in a sketch comedy group in New York. and they were going to do a spoof of the Titanic musical that was out at the time. It was going to be called Towering Inferno. So, hey, do you want to come in, and I know you write the music, will you help us write the songs for this? I'm like, sure, it'll be fun. So not only do I help write the songs for that, but I then also play little bits and pieces in between their sketches. It turns out that one of the folks in that show was in Chicago City Limits, which still is New York's longest running comedy review show.
So for people who don't know Chicago City Limits, they were like, tell us a little about that.
Well, in the mid-'80s, I think they moved to New York in 1980, I want to say,
Okay.
1979 or 80. They were, if you said the word improv comedy in New York City, and you weren't talking about stand-up, because lots of people confuse improv and stand-up, you were talking about Chicago City Limits. It was the only place in town.
And what did they do?
They did short-form improv. Lots of the games you see on Whose Line Is It Anyway, it was those style of games. Although some of their show was more of a long-form style of improv. So they would end their first act with a 25, 30-minute musical. They would do occasional spot scenes that could last 10, 15 minutes at a time without any kind of games or interruptions in them.
And then this was around 1998, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, and what's the scene like in 1998?
You have Chicago City Limits on the Upper East Side. They have their theater on 1st and 60th. And you had stand-up comedy clubs. You had some improv comedy happening. You had the UCB that was performing in the Solo Arts space.
So that would be the original 40.
That's correct, yeah.
2 Max and
Yeah.
Ian. Okay.
And I was lucky enough when, by the time I got involved with Chicago City Limits, the folks that were in Chicago City Limits at that time were, in the National Touring Company anyway, that I became a part of, they were the first generation students learning from the UCB4, and then they ended up teaching lots of classes and things too. So like I felt lucky to be, hey, you're going to start doing improv comedy. Oh, your peer group? That's this hugely, they're the movers and shakers in comedy now. So that felt really cool.
So you made such an impression doing the Titanic music, Towering Inferno. Why do you laugh?
So, well, I mean, so the person in the cast that saw this Towering Inferno musical, she said, Mary Purdy, she said, hey, we're always looking for pianists in Chicago City Limits. Well, can I give them your name? And I said, yeah, sure. I'm like, what's Chicago City Limits? I didn't know what that was. And she explained it a little bit. And I said, yeah, give them my name. That's great. And I don't hear anything for a couple months. I'm auditioning with them for an actor.
What are you doing to make money at this point?
I was working in the legal department of an investment bank. It was a temp job that became a permanent job,
Okay.
thankfully. So
you're doing that and you're auditioning.
at nighttime, I'm doing gigs and shows and auditioning and doing whatever I can to live as an actor again. So I get a call, this is now January of 1998, I get a call from the producer at about 6 o'clock on a Saturday saying, hey, our pianist is sick, can you come in and do the show tonight? And I'm like, I've never heard of your show. I can't know the answer, I can't do the show. He's like, oh, you're on our list for subs. Are you free tomorrow? I'll have our current music director come and teach you the show tomorrow. And I'm like, sure, that sounds great. So that next day, their music director comes in and teaches me. It was part teaching, but part kind of an audition, I guess. He was trying to see if I could, in fact, make up little things on the spot. But he was teaching me some of the technical bits, like they do a Jeopardy spin-off. Can I play Jeopardy? They do a new choice with a bell. Can I do the moves with new choices? You know, he was showing me the bits in order of the show. So that happens on a Sunday. He says, hey, our touring company rehearses tomorrow on Monday. Will you come to the rehearsal? I'm like, that'll be great. So Monday, late afternoon, 5 o'clock, I show up for the rehearsal. I'm there at the rehearsal, I'm watching the rehearsal, playing a little bit. The music director says, hey, do you want to stay and do the show tonight? And I said, yeah, sure, why not? So I played the show that night. The touring company would perform Monday evenings. I played the show. And then the next morning, I get a call from the artistic director, Paul Zuckerman, asking me if I want to be the touring company music director. So I went from a 40-hour period of not really knowing what the show was to now being their national touring company music director, which was crazy.
And so you're there for like 7 years, right?
Yeah, I started in 1998, and then I left when I moved here to DC, and that was March of 2006.
And so, how did music improv change from 1998 to what did you say, 2006?
Yeah.
How was that changing in New York?
It was a lucky time for me to be new and excited about learning improv in
You
general.
seem like you're always excited.
Well-
Is that true? It's not an act, right?
No.
You're always excited.
Well, you have to ask people that know me, I guess. I'm up and about.
Right.
Um,
Does your excitement ever get in the way of, you're so exuberant, you know, and so, but does it ever get in the way of like people, it's off-putting sometimes to people, or you run people the wrong way?
Again, I'm sorry, the perfect person to ask that. I will say that I have found that people will confuse volume with hostility. So I have had to learn to remember that, hey, you could probably tone it down a little bit. And
Well, I know, like, when we were rehearsing, you would throw stuff out and be like, okay, can I question them on that? I mean, it's so confident and so enthusiastic about it, you know? So I was just wondering if, you know.
I hope it doesn't. I mean, I found that I have success with people. I mean, it's fun being able to take people who don't have a lot of experience with musical improv and through 8 weeks get them confident to be singing and doing stuff. And I got a cast full of amazing, talented people that now can do also this music improv stuff, and I taught it to them. So, I mean, it must not be too off-putting. They stuck around for it, right?
Well, but I think the also thing is, because you gave me, you know, when we were doing it, is like, we were rehearsing a little before, and you're like, when you sing, you gotta be really confident. And I think probably it's the same thing, I know with teaching too, because I teach as well, or you do as well. You have to be confident, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, as a teacher, I mean, you're the word that they come to hear, right? So if you feel if you're up there with a lack of confidence and you're not selling what you're doing, they're not going to stick around very long. And they're like, well, this guy doesn't seem to really be into what he's doing. He doesn't seem too confident about his craft. Maybe somebody else does. I think I'm going to pay my tuition somewhere else.
Well, I mean this as a compliment. I love your confidence and your like directness, you know?
I think the more blunt you get, the better. Something that annoys me sometimes about improv classes, none at Washington Improv Theater, but something that annoys me about improv classes, and any kind of classes in general, is when the teacher is too nice and not telling you that you need work, or that trying to assist you or be critical, because these students, they're paying the cash and they want to be there to learn and get better. And if you're not blunt with them about this is an area that you need to work on, this is a challenge for you, you need to work on X, then they're wasting their money. They're not learning, they're not getting better.
I remember when I was teaching at Second City, the A through E program, I had gotten a class before the class that, you know, like, so they were in level B and then I got level C. And I started to side coach and give notes, and they're like, well, we didn't, they were like, it took me a long time to get the class because they didn't get notes. They got no feedback in the class before, and it was like, you're giving me this, you know? And that can be really frustrating. So you were teaching, you started to teach musical improv in New York, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm saying I felt lucky to be in the scene at that time because there wasn't a lot of musical improv that wasn't only located as a part of a short form game of some sort. I mean, even
is that where it came from?
Probably. I don't know. I mean, it would not shock me if the first musical improv things were just, you know, whose line is it anyway? They have, you know, they do a rodeo song, they do a blues song, they do. And
so Wayne Brady always sings it.
Yeah, well, he's very good.
Right. You say that. What do you say that?
No, I'm saying he's great. I mean, like, he's confident too, and he knows he's going to sell a moment. And he knows, you know something? If I take this line, I do this, it's going to kill, and everyone is going to get their money's worth, and I'm going to do it. So
You weren't fucking with me. You really think he's good, right?
I do think he's an incredibly talented person.
Yeah.
What? He's amazing. All right.
Right. And then you directed a show at the Pit.
Yeah.
Okay. And you have a great story. And I know if you don't want to tell it, I totally understand. So are you comfortable?
Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
great. Okay, so tell us a little about the story. You were directing the show, and you had everybody in suits, and you were in a tuxedo.
Yeah. So we were doing this show called the Monday Night Musical, and it was.
And no one was doing musicals back then, right?
Yeah, I mean, not really. No, I mean, like we were starting to. I have to say that one of the first really, so Chicago City Limits would have, as the end of their first act, we would do an improvised musical that would be 20, 25, 30 minutes in length. And it would be a biography style musical where we would interview someone in the audience, get some moment of their life, and then, hey, it's the musical, and we would essentially reenact that moment or put a new spin.
Almost like a musical dream?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, or another version of the way they did it, or trying to be as true to what they said, or maybe they said something funny in the interview, and we go off on that, and that becomes the show. But doing those, it was so strict, and there was so much expectation over, hey, person X is giving us beat 1, beat 2, beat 3 in this interview. We got to make sure we hit beat 1, beat 2, beat 3 in the show that we do now. And I was really intrigued about trying to do musicals that weren't so strict about trying to hit jokes or trying to hit bits that the audience had an expectation for. I mean, I was a musical theater actor. That was my training, right? I happened into the improv by accident, but I thought, boy, wouldn't it be awesome to just do improvised musicals and just leave it at that? And if they're funny, great, but wouldn't it be great to improvise musicals? Wouldn't that be cool? So I started asking some of the more talented folks that I knew from Chicago City Limits and elsewhere in the very quickly growing improv scene to be doing this with me. And I had a very fun time with a tiny group called I Eat Pandas with Eliza Skinner and Glennis McMurray, she's McCarthy mentioned here. And we were starting to really explore the idea of doing musicals that, I mean, they're hilarious. They were good, they were hilarious musicals, mainly because you have two hilarious women doing them. But they were also incredibly gifted singers and actors, and we were exploring making the show about the musical and mostly not commenting on the fact that it's a musical. I think that's the important point, that up to this time, you would have people on stage, they would sing a song, and it would spoof the genre. It would be like, I'm singing the song now, and you would picture them pretending to have a hat and cane, and the joke would be that it's a musical. And I was so not interested in that. I wanted to just do a musical and see what that was like, and not make fun of the fact that it's a musical. And we were doing that with I Eat Pandas. I started a show at the Pit called the Monday Night Musical, and we were doing that as well. It was really more of an excuse to hang out with my friends that could do improv and do it, at the Pit, but the People's Improv Theater. So anyway, we're doing this show, and I had the idea, hey, we're gonna all be dressed up. So I would have a tux at the Keys, and everyone would be in suits, and the gowns for the ladies. I mean, it was
real
classy joint. Classy, right? So we have a hiatus of a couple of weeks, and I go back to start the next 6-week run of this. And backstage at the Pit at that time, basically the backstage was chaotic. You had everything everywhere, and there was a long, costume rack, clothing rack, where I kept my tux. And I show up after the hiatus, and there's no clothes, it's all gone. I'm like, oh, that's whatever. So I emailed the director of the theater, Ali.
Ali Farahani.
Yes.
Who I knew from Chicago.
Yeah.
Great guy.
And I said, he is great.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, I couldn't find my tux. I came in to set up, I couldn't find my tux. And he's like, oh, we donated all that to the Goodwill. What? He said, yeah, we donated. You didn't get the email that we sent out about that? I'm like, no, I didn't get the email. That was my tux. And I'm waiting for him to say, let me replace this tux for you, so you don't have to buy it. I'm waiting for that moment. And that moment doesn't come. Instead, he says, I tell you what, because if you met Ali, he does not want anyone to be sad ever. Like that's his. Am I fair in saying that?
Yes, and he's the most charismatic guy. And
absolutely. And for whatever reason, he decides he's not going to pay for a new tux for me because he's a businessman as well, I guess. Go figure. But he said, I tell you what I'm going to do. I have an extra suit, and I'm going to give that to you because we're about the same size. And he's a tall guy. He's a little taller than me, but not so much taller that it's crazy to think that I couldn't fit in one of his suits, right? So he's like, I'll give you one of my suits. And I'm thinking, okay, great. I don't say that it was a tux, but I say, all right, great. That's great. And so he shows up the next day when the show's going to happen. He shows up the next day, and he's got this blue suit with big gold buttons on the cuffs and on the. And if I were to be standing outside of the Astor welcoming people in, I'm sure I would have fit right in. But I was not as direct then as I am now. So I said, thanks, Ollie, this is going to be great. Thanks.
So it was like a doorman suit?
Yeah, it looked kind of. I'm guessing it did not hurt him very much to give it to me. It did not cause a lot of stress.
So, a lot of people will say like musical improv is gimmicky.
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
I say, well, can improv be gimmicky too? When you get right down to it, that's one thing I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I would say is musical improv can be gimmicky. You're right, but so can normal improv be gimmicky, and you can choose to have your non-musical improv be non-gimmicky, and you can choose your musical improv to also be non-gimmicky. I think when people say the word gimmick, I think they think it's a guaranteed laugh or response. There's going to be oh, he's singing on the spot. Wow, I'm going to clap now. Like there's a certain predetermined success moment with the word gimmick that I think comes across. And with musical improv, yeah, I mean there's a shock factor of it, sure, but there's not going to be a lot of artistic satisfaction if that's where you're living with the art form. So I would say it can be gimmicky, but not what we do.
And why do improvisers shy away from it? So someone's been doing long form for a while, and they shy away from it.
Well, it probably goes back to the gimmicky question, right? If your only interest with musical improv is to make it gimmicky, you could probably pick it up pretty quickly. And if you are, if you have a really great voice that is worth listening to, it's even more successful at that point, but it's still gimmicky. You're only learning how to do some rhymes, you're learning to spoof the genre. You don't have to invest a lot of time into making that craft sing. So not to
All right, so let me throw some things out. I don't know what's happened in my mouth today. That get in my way of doing musical
Sure.
improv. I've got to rhyme.
Okay.
What do you say to that?
To that, I would say that's your gut being in the right direction. When we hear music, when we hear songs, people are rhyming all the time. They're rhyming constantly. So it doesn't sound musical unless we're rhyming. So it's an understandable place to be. But what I would quickly say is that I would compare it to food, and I would say, when we were cavemen and we were figuring out how to eat properly, we started using silverware, and so we would have forks and spoons and knives and chopsticks, have straws, however you want to go. And we quickly would become awkward if you were at the table and you were eating your soup and someone was using their hand. Everyone was, it's comfortable if everyone's using spoons. But much like the meal you eat is not about the silverware, it's about the food. Songs are not about the rhyme. The rhyme is the tool you're using, but the song in the end is not about the rhyme. It's about what you're saying.
What would you tell an improviser who's like, I'm scared to do it, and that improviser is me, I'm scared to do it because I have to rhyme everything and I'm not a good rhymer?
What I would say is that, like any skill or craft, the more you do it, the better you're going to be, and it's not going to come to you immediately. If you're starting from the place where, what am I singing? Does the audience believe what I'm singing? Is my character going to say this lyric or this line, and will the audience believe it? Do I believe that this character would say that? If it's coming from that place, eventually your muscle memory will start to be able to remember how to rhyme words, and that will come. But the most important place is to be believed first.
Okay, then the other thing people will say is, well, I'm not a good singer. I don't like to sing. What do you tell people who aren't good singers? Do you have to be a good singer to do it?
The best musical improv usually is going to have people who are also really good singers. That's just the way it is. I mean, it's nice to have a pleasant voice to listen to. I mean, good, you have to put in quotes, because it doesn't have to be recording star quality. It doesn't have to be somebody we're going to buy an album from. But it needs to, the best musical improv is going to be somebody that can actually follow a tune, where you're not off key. You might not have a great voice, but you're not off key. You're singing, and the singing is not a distraction. That's the way to phrase it. Where the fact that you're singing a line, my mind is not going, wow, he can't sing at all. Because you're following the pitches, you're working with the song, I quickly am ignoring the quality of your voice because I'm listening to your words. And if I believe what you're saying, I'm wrapped up in your character's moment, and I don't have a lot of time to judge your singing voice because I'm caring about your character.
Okay, here's another one. I do a lot of long form. You know, and when people sing in a scene, it's a cop-out.
Sure.
What do you say to that?
I would say no, it's not. How about that? I would say, well, if it's musical improv, I mean, like if the mission of the show is to be a musical improv show and the audience has come into the expectation, hey, we're doing an improvised musical, clearly it's not going to be a cop-out, right? I mean, like that's the expectation. I would say the reverse. I would say it's a chance to do more. When we sing, we're singing, we're exploring emotion, and we're getting the chance to experience your character and what you're thinking in a way that you can't do with words. Words don't cut it. Now you're hitting a different part of the brain of the audience that is now connected to music and hitting the emotional connection with the audience that way because you're singing now. And it's a way to even get deeper and better at communicating what you want than without music. That's what I would say.
Okay, we're going to improvise now. We're going to bringing out Matt and Karen, Matt Berman and Karen Lang, and we're going to do, let's just talk about what we're going to do before we do this. We are going to do some scenes, some musical scenes, right?
Yes.
And this is your concept. It's what we would see if we saw iMusical, the improvised musical, right?
Yeah, I mean, this would be a good sample of what the feeling would be.
Now, I think this is interesting. When we talked earlier, you said it took you 8 years or something to figure this out?
Well, we started in 1998. I started in 1998.
In New York.
In New York. And around 2000, 2001, after finally feeling comfortable, because remember, I hadn't done this as a gig, you know. So by the time I started realizing, hey, this whole playing music on the spot with people, this is really fun. You should do this instead. By the time that started to click with me, I started really wanting to get the satisfaction that I was getting from musical theater now to have, hey, let's not have it just be gimmicks now. Let's actually really do musicals. And so that was about 2000, 2001. You have an incredible pool of talent in New York City because you have people that are auditioning to do musical theater anyway. So I mean, they're also doing improv too because they're gifted. That's happening. It took several years to figure out, what we wanted. And then I moved to DC, and I know, hey, I know now the vision I want. I know what's going to make it tick.
And what is that vision?
That's improvising a musical. That's going to be funny just because it's improv, but that's not the mission. The mission is to improvise musical theater. To make you think that you just saw Rent or Les Mis, but it happened to be improvised.
Have you done one that haven't been funny?
Well, I think inherently, because of what the art form is, it's going to be comedic. It's tough to have it be 100% non-comedic. It's just tough. It's just hand in hand with improv. But I would say comfortably the last several years, especially beginning with the I Confess show that we did in 2012, I want to say. This was a couple of years ago with the DC Fringe, Capital Fringe Festival.
Okay.
We started doing, with those shows especially, they were musicals. And yes, they'd be funny at times, but there were real character journeys happening, and they'd be crying in the audience in a good way, because they would connect with the characters, and it would surprise the hell out of them with what they just saw.
So how do you know that you've done a good show? Like in improv, a lot of people, they go, oh, we got a lot of laughs or whatever. This is a little different. This is different. So how do you measure if it's a good show or not?
To the frustration of my cast, probably, the way that I measure if it's a good show is if I've been moved by it. So if I'm sitting at and it's tough because I'm accompanying the show, so I have to kind of be in the show, but I get the best seat in the house with these things. And if I am personally moved by the character choices that they're making and the discoveries that happen, then it's a good show.
Okay, so you've really set a high bar for me, because I'm going to try to move you. That's fine. That's fine.
We've already established I'm a good mover, so I think
let's bring out Karen and let's bring out Matt. And how do you guys usually start iMusical?
We usually start with some sort of a simplistic suggestion. And a very common one is to get a location, a very specific kind of location to start a show. So for this, do you want to even go into it at all, apart from just saying that, or do you want to?
Okay, so they get a location, and then I want to know this. So could we have a location, please?
Airport terminal.
Okay, so
Right.
An airport terminal, great. What goes on in your head when you hear airport terminal, that suggestion? Musically? Yeah.
I would have to know, first of all, the mission of our show, right? So if this is I I would have to very quickly decide, am I going to play a reference that in 15 seconds or 10 seconds would be like, hey, that's the airport, right? If I have to quickly decide that, or, and this is much more common now, am I just going to try and set some sort of atmospheric mood that will appeal to me, that will have maybe nothing to do with the word airport. I'll just play something that's going to hopefully strike an emotive response and leave it to the actors to set it back up right there.
Because really, you're the one who takes that first suggestion, because you're hitting your fingers on that keyboard.
That's right.
Or anything.
So I'll set a mood. I'll set a mood that will hopefully inspire them to either match my mood, being sad or down if I'm playing sad or down music, or contrast that mood. Which both of them have wonderful hats.
Let's hope you have more than just two sad.
All right. That's all there are. That's all there
Okay,
is.
so let's move you to the piano.
All right, sure.
Airport terminal is a
Yes.
suggestion, and we're doing 3 scenes.
Yeah, so it'll be 3 scenes, 3 songs. Each scene will end with the song. So
Okay, fully improvised.
that's correct.
Great. All right, that scares the hell out of me.
Great.
I hope to move you.
Oh,
Okay,
no doubt.
great.
Airport terminal.
Got to drive the little car around today.
I know, I saw it, honey. Yeah. I've got we should be getting on at any minute. They said that the flight's only about 10 minutes delayed.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
10 minutes is like nothing nowadays.
yeah.
Oh.
So I want you to leave. I'm really gonna miss you when you go to school.
Dad.
Your mom wanted to be here.
Yeah, I know she wanted to be here.
She did. Jerry, she wanted to be here.
Yeah, I mean, she really wanted to be
She
here.
has the flu today.
She seemed fine.
She really wanted to be here, Sherry.
Well, that's fine. But you're here.
Yeah, and I love
Dad.
you.
Oh,
I
Dad!
love you so much. I'm so proud of you.
Means a lot to me, Dad.
Well, I wish I could go to college. I never got to go to college.
I'm gonna go to college for both of us.
Oh.
When I move into the dorm, I'll be there. You will be too. When I choose a bunk, I'll be thinking, which one would Dad like to? When I line up in the bookstore and spend all my money, I'll be reading with 2 minds, Dad and me. We're gonna make college count. I'll transfer all the knowledge to you. We're gonna make college count. All the knowledge will come to you.
Now, when I was your age, I didn't get a chance to go.
I know.
My dad made me work when I was 6 years old. I got a black one working at Palooza. But I said one day, when that canary died, that I'd start a family.
We're gonna make college count. Knowledge will come from me.
Maybe I can get another job.
We're gonna make college count.
Once and for all, someday.
I look up
know, Sherry, I think I might take somebody else to homecoming.
Why, Ronald?
It's your dad.
What? I mean, you knew when we met.
No,
My dad
he's
was part of
always here.
My dad never got to go to college.
Yeah.
Has black lung.
I
And
know.
he was 6 years
He
old.
won't stop talking about it.
But he's just so happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here too. It's college. I want to be here without your dad.
I think maybe you just need to have another perspective on things. Maybe you should invite your dad to come with us.
My dad's dead. I don't have a dad.
My dad
I'm
is
here
there.
on a scholarship because my dad is dead.
I know, the dead dad scholarships are much
Yeah,
better than the
there's
real
only one of them. I worked really hard to get it and lost my dad.
Ronald!
Look, I don't need another father figure, okay? I just wanted a girlfriend. I didn't need another dad hanging around talking about his black lungs.
That sounds like a man who does need another father figure. I think you need a dad.
Oh, we're gonna get all psychoanalytical on that.
You started it with, my dad's dead and everything.
Well, I took Psych 101, so I know what's happening in your head.
Well, I could show you my paper that I wrote. It was about familial bonds.
I don't want to read your paper about familial bonds.
It's right over here. I bring it with me every time I go.
I don't need to see a term to know what's going on. I don't need another speech from your dad to tell me I'm the bomb. I do it all on my own. I don't need to have a date to homecoming unless I wanna. And if I don't bring you with me, I know somebody else is gonna go. That's right. If I have to stay home alone, I can do it all on I can talk bigger if you want it. College only comes once in life. Gotta go, gotta bother. I wanna go with a girlfriend, not with a girlfriend's father. So you can go to homecoming all alone. 'Cause I can't do it on my I can't do it on your own. Thanks for coming to homecoming with us.
So yeah, I told you he was happy.
Thanks for having us here.
Yeah, it's great. It's really lively.
It was
over
really nice
there.
of you to get him a corsage too.
Yes.
Yeah, the two of them are really holding down both lapels.
Sherry's very special to me.
Thanks, Bob. Sherry's special to me too.
I am?
Yeah, wouldn't be here if you weren't special to me.
I appreciate it. So does Dad.
I don't have much time left.
He doesn't. were still here, didn't you?
Yes, thank God you're still here.
That's right.
What would make me happy? Sherry's about to graduate, but if she wouldn't be alone in the world when I'm gone.
Oh,
Sherry.
my mom doesn't love me very much, so I'd essentially be alone.
She'd be here today at graduation, but she's got the flu.
My mom's dead.
Your mom is dead too?
Everybody's dead.
So you're alone too.
He's really alone.
Well, I'm not alone. I've got Sherry.
That's what I'm thinking.
And I guess if I've got Sherry, I've got Sherry's dad.
You got a family that you never had.
Oh, family. A different one than you had, but you never had this one before.
I thought about it like that before. I've always been alone in the world.
So have I.
But you had a father, and he put you through mines.
You're 6 years old.
He died when I was 14. I know we haven't gotten along, but I see me and you. But you have a brighter future. You won't go to the mines and get black lung.
No, people don't do that anymore, Dad.
You found someone you loved. Sherry, I never loved your mother. I know this might not be the best time, but
Daddy, I never loved her either.
I never even met her.
You never will.
but it's about finding love. I didn't do it.
I have to do it for him.
I'm living vicariously through my daughter.
If you need someone to live vicariously through, let me be a part. If you want someone to grow up the way you wished you did, let me be your beating heart. I would like to call you my son, the son I never had, the son that will rise and brighten Sherry's day. Please become a part of our family, Sherry and me.
Not my mom.
I was moved. I can tell you the part that I was moved the most.
Yes.
It was in the very first scene.
Okay.
There was a connection right before she started singing.
Before Karen sang.
Before Karen singing, there was a moment where it just became very clear that you really. I wish I could remember it's the problem with being where I am now. I've missed the exact lines, and you know I'm doing the next scene and the next scene. But there was a moment, there was an interaction where I completely believed this father loved his daughter, and I was totally sold in that moment.
Okay.
And it doesn't take a lot. I mean, we fill in subtext all on our own. You know, we will try and make sense of the actions on stage, and so it doesn't take a lot as long as you're honest and don't give me information that's going to contradict what my brain's going to say. I'm going to fill in the blanks, and I completely filled in that you could. Was I alone in that? I mean, I completely believe that he loved his daughter.
I'm going to say honest because when I hear musicals, I don't think honest, and that's my problem.
I'm going to say two words to you.
Okay.
Stephen Sondheim.
Okay, for
Okay.
people who don't know Stephen Sondheim.
Stephen Sondheim is still alive, thankfully. Arguably one of the greatest music theater composers to ever be around. And if you see a Stephen Sondheim musical, you will not leave that musical going, wow, there was nothing honest there. It's all about this.
But I think when people think of musical theater, acting, and singing, it's out to the audience, you know, big and broad.
Well, that is one type of music theater. I mean, that's a sticky kind,
Right.
you know. But you can have musicals that are not showman musicals, that are not just about songs that are really cool to listen to, tied into some sort of thin narrative. You can have musicals that are completely real journeys of real characters, and they just happen to be singing. And the singing is now another vehicle to convey that emotion. I mean, you know, you can't watch. You can't watch Company and not be completely moved at being alive at the end of the show, where the main character Bobby is finally realizing, oh my goodness, it's about being alive. That's my whole problem. I need to act. I need to live in now and not care about the others. I mean that you're not going to be, if you're not moved by that, then
You're made of stone.
You're made of stone. Yeah, you have other problems. Yeah.
Great, so let's talk about this because we've got a short time here, so I want to put it to the best that we can. So the first scene, it was Karen and myself, and you decided to play.
I was trying to give us busyness. So we're at the airport, there's a terminal, there's stuff happening. And I left it open so that it would not necessarily be sad or happy, so that you could, you know, sometimes I can call the mood right on the top and impose that, and then they can choose to do it or not. But I wanted to keep it open, so to let you choose whether or not to make it happy or sad.
Great, and so then in terms of the song, how did you decide you made that choice, Karen, to go with that song?
Well, I think that as we interacted in the scene, there was clearly, you know, it was clearly a happy occasion to go off to college. And as soon as you endowed me as your daughter, that, you know, immediately clicked into that kind of relationship that then made it somewhat bittersweet, but then turning it up to be something where we, you know, where it wasn't a sad goodbye, but it was something we could then do together, made it fun and made it something where we had someplace to go. That it wasn't just a, you know, bye at the airport kind of song, where it was something where I wasn't going to leave you completely behind.
What I found interesting too is a lazy long form player. It's like when you do this, you have to get to it. You really have to like get the relationship. You've got to really work really quickly to get the relationship, what's going on and stuff like that, then to forward to get to the music. Is that right?
Yeah, my gravestone is going to say, Travis hates exposition. That's going to be my gravestone. Meaning I want these moments to start right in the middle of the moment. We have to be right there. We're not choosing to start the moment with, hello, how are you? We're starting in the middle of an emotional moment. And then that might, hopefully does, escalate to something even more different or heightened or whatever, but we've got to start right in the action.
Right. I felt like for me making the choice of the black one, I'm a little jokey. I think I was panicking a little.
I think the moment that was nice it was past that, right? Because you were settling in.
Right.
You were settling in. You were just
Yeah,
trying
I was
to
finding
right?
myself, yeah.
But once you got there, right? You made some crack, and then you couched it at the end with just very simple, you know, I'm going to be proud of you. You know, she's proud of you too, or like,
Right.
she's not showing it, but this is going to work. There was some moment you just went back to just saying it like it was, and we do that in life, right? I mean, like we'll couch emotions in jokes and then come back to it at the end. We do that all the time.
Right. And then we saw the second scene between Matt and Karen, and what were you playing for that? What was your thought?
The intro music mean the segue music? I don't even remember at this point. Or the
The
song.
song. We're going to the
Oh, well, we already established a couple times that it was a dance or a prom, and I knew that for variety's sake, I wanted to make sure that the song was a very different sounding song from what we just had here, and I wanted to make sure that, I guess you can't make sure. I was hoping that Matt would initiate the singing for that because we'd already heard from you two, and so thinking, what kind of music is this guy going to sing? He was already playing kind of this like, hey, cool kind of guy, so I started playing that kind of music.
So you were going off what he was initiating.
Absolutely, I was trying to get a sense of this character.
And so, Matt, how did you know, like, to go with your song, or the beginning of that song?
Just from the context of the scene. Generally, you're out there and the music comes in, and there's like, if the music's playing, it's either clearly underscoring something to add, timber to the scene, or it's building up to an emotional moment. And from where the scene had gone, we were now at sort of this emotional moment, right, where something has come between them. So to me, that's like a jumping off point to sing. I had a similar thought as well. Karen initiated the first song, so for variety's sake, it would make sense for this new person we don't know much about yet, we're finding out about him, to sort of take the reins in this next song and give you a little bit of insight into his world, but then, it also provides for sort of a bridge sequence for Karen's able to provide more insight into her reaction against
Were you thinking the same along the same line?
Yeah.
So the structure almost becomes in your head, right? I mean, it almost becomes instinctual.
You feel it when it's that character's song coming. When you have an innate sense of like that character is the one whose emotional moment is now.
There's times when you're doing it, right, where you don't know exactly who the scene. You know that the scene is about two people, it seems about multiple people, and the music's playing, and any one of them could step forward and give you a glimpse into their world. But in the context of these scenes, it felt pretty clear to me that it was that guy's turn to sing.
Great, so now we go to the third scene, really the third act.
Absolutely.
In
Our little opera.
our little opera. What do you decide to initiate?
I decided to initiate that moment because we had I was playing for a while too, so we had this passing off moment of the father saying, I want you to be, I feel so comfortable now that you're not going to be alone. And there was just a tender moment there, and I figured, maybe you would initiate the song, or maybe not. We hadn't worked on that, but this just screamed to me to be the moment that it was your relief. This was the relief that yes, your daughter's not going to be alone. And so I wanted to play music that would support that kind of a song, a song. Yes, life is going to be okay, but sentimental, soft. Life is going to be fine.
Right.
That kind of a mood. So that's
Did I initiate it? Did I initiate the song?
Matt
Did I start
started,
the Matt
and you
started?
took the second two lines of the verse.
Yeah. But it was wonderful. I mean, like it was such a wonderful moment. And then we escalated into actually married there, which is great. But that moment was executed the way it needed to be. That was the emotional response we wanted.
Did you think I was stepping on you when you initiated the first two lines?
And actually, I had thought of Travis, I was actually hoping you would take this on.
I think I had instincts, but I was like, I was terrified. I was like, I don't
Well,
know.
and
They're the
then
singers.
you feel that too.
Right,
And
yeah.
so when it's also time to be like, okay, it's time to sing the song, so we're going to start this up, and that is a courage lifter for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was one of those things where it's like, all right, I just done the song in the second scene, so I would have loved for someone else to do it. And since we each initiated one, it felt like now, this
Let the
father
old
should
guy
accept
do
it.
it.
Right, it's like it's his turn to step, right? But then it's like, all right, well, also if you're doing this, for the first time, so then you sort of get the ball rolling. So when then you took it, it's like
Right away. It was like two lines in, you started
Right,
singing. So
right.
you didn't wait very long.
Yeah.
And then I felt like towards the end, you guys are so musical. It was just like, it was just kind of, I was ruining it. I felt musically, for you guys. That's what I felt. Let's take some quick questions, and then we're going to have to wrap up this show. So if we could turn the house lights on really quickly, And if you've got questions about what we just did or something specifically for Travis, that would be great. So if somebody could just throw their hands up and ask a quick question here, that would be great. We would truly appreciate it. We've got one right here.
Sure. Travis, what advice would you give to young people with their sights set on Broadway or Hollywood?
Well, since my career was so successful with it, I'm the best person. Honestly, actually, it became very clear to me that my heart wasn't in that. And whether or not it was because I fell into this and realized, oh wow, this is pretty rare too. Maybe I should make more rare. Maybe I should be doing this. But I found that my heart wasn't in it. And something that I do know from my friends that are successful on Broadway and in the film industry, they really do it. I mean, their heart is in it. And you have to commit, commit, commit. I would say, don't take a backup major in college. I would say, get whatever training you need to get that you feel will make you able to sell yourself an audition, and then audition, audition, and live it, and live it, and live it. And don't give up, and keep going, and keep going, and keep going. Because if you feel that you're going to give up, then that's not for you. I mean, it's about rejection, and yeah. So that would be my advice. Dive in, and if you can stand the rejection, then you can keep on doing it.
Can I just add that those are not the only two cities that can make you feel like a success?
Thank you.
Acting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's a great group of people in DC right here. There's cities across the country that have wonderful regional theaters. So you can have a really wonderful, rewarding career. You may not be super famous, but you'll be doing the art that you want to do.
You'll be a working actor.
Great. Another question real quick? Yes.
Who are like your biggest improv influences? I'm curious. And
Oh.
what's the full? This might be too long of a question. What's the philosophy you tend to follow?
Well, I mean, anything that doesn't rely on the shtick and the comedy and is relying on real emotional moments. And I mean, I felt that this had tons of real stuff, but it was also very hilarious. It was very, very funny too, right? The truth comes from comedy. It's like a phrase or something. I don't know what that is, but
Truth and comedy.
right, yeah,
Trying to help
yeah,
bring out both
it's kind of a big deal. Yeah, so for instance, like Teaching and Dance, it's kind of a standard to go to, right? But when you see one of their shows, they're not. I mean, those are real people up there. You completely believe the world that they're creating. The people that trained me, like Rob Schiffman and Frank Spitznagel. I mean, like those are folks that they believe in this honesty with the work as well. And so, yeah.
I want to tag on. I think that for me, right, I came up mostly in the DC scene, so my improv influences are the people who were on stage when I was watching them. So it was like Mark Chalfant, who's now the artistic director at Washington Improv Theater, and executive director, and like Dave Johnson, and Mike Bass, and like all these guys who were just amazing improvisers. And you watch them, and because you're watching them do it, you're like, oh, I want to do that. And like you pick up bits and pieces, I think, from everybody that you see, and then everybody that you play with. So like I learned stuff from playing Karen, I learned stuff from like reacting to what Travis does, and obviously from being directed by him. So just the more you do, it's like you're just a sponge and you keep soaking it up.
This was really great. Before you go, I want everybody's feedback on this. We'll start with Karen. What advice would you give somebody starting out in improv today?
I think, as somebody who teaches beginning improv, it's about learning to play again and having fun and learning trust with a room full of people in the way that you did when you were a kid. So I would say be open and be willing to just play the game.
Great. And Matt?
Find people that you like to be around and who make you laugh, and keep playing.
Great. And Travis?
Take classes, but perform as much as possible. Find excuses and places to perform, and even if they're people, especially if they're people that don't know you, because you'll find out very quickly what's working and what's not.
Great. Thank you so much. Matt Berman, Karen Lane, and Travis Charles Plager. I got it right. Can you believe that? Thank you so much. And thank you, the Washington Improv Theater, for having us here. We really, really appreciate it. And thank you for coming out and supporting us. We couldn't do this show without you. Could you play a little music underneath? Doesn't it seem like
Sure, right, yeah.
So I just want to thank everybody here. It's been a great time.